something very quiet just happened in fashion, and that silence is exactly why it shook so many people. British Vogue didn't shout, it didn't tease, it didn't explain itself. It simply released its first ever best dressed list, and with that single polished move, it redrew the power map without asking anyone's permission. Sitting calmly at the very top was Katherine. No drama, no performance, no effort you could visibly trace. Just presence. The kind that doesn't rush because it doesn't need to. But the real pause didn't come from who was crowned. It came seconds later when Vogue quietly unveiled a second list. 55 of the most stylish cultural figures shaping the world right now. Actors, musicians, designers, tastemakers. Everyone had a place. Everyone had a lane. Everyone had a reason for being there. Except one name that people expected without question. Meghan Markle wasn't there. No ranking. No honorable mention. Not even a whisper in the margins. And when Vogue goes silent, that silence isn't accidental. It's intentional. In fashion, being ignored is louder than being criticized. A door didn't slam. It closed softly. And that's how power moves when it doesn't need approval. Here's what most people missed. This was never about dresses or heels or silhouettes. Vogue made that very clear. This list wasn't about what you wear. It was about who you are when you wear it. Vogue wasn't searching for noise. It was searching for restraint, for people who shape culture without chasing it, for influence that arrives before announcements do. In this world, style isn't loud. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't beg to be understood. Vogue doesn't reward urgency. It rewards control. And once you understand that, the list stops looking like fashion coverage and starts reading like a power ledger. Who gets trusted? Who gets invited? And who no longer fits the room. And then there was Katherine, not just included, crowned. Vogue didn't simply rank her. They labeled her something far more permanent, an eternal influencer, not trendy, not seasonal, permanent. She was placed alongside women whose relevance never needed reinvention, names that didn't ask permission to matter because they already did. Vogue highlighted her loyalty to British designers, her love for vintage fashion, and that almost unsettling ability she has to change a brand's future by wearing it once. No press tour. No speeches, no personal narrative to sell, just quiet consistency. They even pointed out that her influence is expected to grow as she steps into issuing royal warrants. And that sentence mattered more than it seemed, because that wasn't fashion language, that was financial language. Translation, her presence doesn't just move trends, it moves money, slowly, calmly, inevitably. That's when the contrast became impossible to ignore. One woman rising without asking, another not even acknowledged. And suddenly, this wasn't about style anymore, it was about how power actually works. What insiders call the Kate effect isn't flattery, it's measurable. Brands she wears sell out within hours. Designers see spikes that can be traced back to a single appearance. The numbers run into the billions. Vogue understands this fluently. They don't crown people because they're liked, they crown people because they move systems. Katherine doesn't chase fashion houses. Fashion houses quietly hope for a nod. And what makes her even more valuable is what she doesn't do. No chaos. No overexposure, no emotional volatility, just stability. From Vogue's perspective, that isn't just style, that's safety. And safety is everything when deciding who gets long-term influence and who slowly fades out of relevance. Now circle back to that second list. 55 names, each carefully justified. Amo Clooney praised for commitment to a look. Musicians credited for shaping sound and style. Actors celebrated for eccentric confidence. Even the men had defined lanes. Everyone belonged, and Meghan still wasn't there. This wasn't forgetfulness. Vogue doesn't forget people at that level. This was about definition. Who are you right now? What do you represent? What lasts after the noise fades? Vogue didn't explain her absence because they didn't need to. Silence is how institutions communicate when the answer is already settled. And the message was uncomfortable but clear. Whatever Meghan represents at this stage, Vogue no longer considers it cultural authority. That's where the quiet rejection sharpened. Sources close to the situation say Meghan didn't wait passively. She reached out. But what arrived wasn't collaboration, it was conditions. A full feature, major placement, creative control, approval over images, quotes, narrative, control over how the story would be told. In other words, it wasn't a partnership, it was a demand, and that's where Vogue drew the line. They work with powerful women all the time, but there's one rule they rarely bend. Vogue controls the story. Even global icons don't dictate editorial authority. Insiders say the tone raised eyebrows, not because it was ambitious, but because it felt entitled. Vogue isn't in the business of image rehabilitation. They don't rescue rescue reputations, they protect their own. Faced with a figure whose public image has grown polarizing, demanding control instead of trust, Vogue did what it always does. It declined politely. Quietly, firmly. In fashion, a polite no is louder than a public rejection. It's the sound of access being withdrawn. There was a time when Meghan's presence felt intriguing, new, untouchable, but mystique is fragile, and once it's gone, it rarely returns. In elite media circles, overexposure isn't visibility, it's erosion. The more the same themes repeat, the weaker they become. Vogue thrives on distance, on unanswered questions, on letting the image breathe. Somewhere along the way, Meghan's story stopped breathing. Every appearance felt strategic. Every smile felt rehearsed. Every moment felt like it was trying to say something instead of simply being something. Fashion doesn't reward effort you can see, it rewards effort you never notice. Leaving the royal family was meant to open doors, freedom, reinvention, opportunity. Instead, it revealed something harsher: how much influence had lived inside the institution itself. Outside the palace, the safety net vanished. Media deals promised resets but delivered mixed results. Projects launched loudly, then faded quietly. Behind the scenes, relationships cooled. Invitations slowed. Support became conditional. The uncomfortable truth is this: the authority Meghan once carried wasn't entirely hers. It flowed through proximity to the crown. Without it, every move demanded more effort for less return. Freedom came, but so did isolation. And in industries that prize stability, isolation is dangerous. This story goes beyond fashion. Attention is loud. It trends. It spikes. It disappears. Favor is quiet. It doesn't announce itself, but it decides outcomes. Institutions don't chase attention. They protect favor. That's why Vogue's silence matters. That's why the monarchy never rushes to respond. Power that lasts doesn't argue. It waits. Catherine's influence grows because it aligns with systems that move slowly and deliberately. Meghan's struggle isn't about ambition or talent, it's about positioning. When you step into conflict with the structures that elevated you, attention may follow, but favor doesn't. And without favor, doors don't slam. They simply stop opening. In the end, this was never about close. It was about two paths leading to two outcomes. One woman learned to wait, to listen, to let institutions speak for her. She didn't chase relevance. She became inevitable. The other pushed forward, demanded space, demanded control, demanded to be heard, and discovered that power doesn't respond well to pressure. Vogue didn't choose sides loudly. It didn't need to. It crowned one and quietly passed on the other. And that decision speaks louder than any headline ever could. Because influence doesn't vanish overnight. It shifts, it settles, it chooses where it feels safe. And right now, it's very clear where it feels most at home. This isn't an ending. It's a pause, a recalibration. And the real question isn't who Vogue crowned this time. It's who will understand the lesson before the next door closes just as quietly. Is just as quietly. Is just as